Shall we start the show, Mary? Beautiful,
Well,
Mary. Let's start the show. How's that
all
sound?
right. Well, welcome everybody to Optimize Your Life on the Riverside Podcast System, brought to you by the Golden Rule Society, founded by Captain Len Kane, our hero, our Rear Admiral retired, five-time nominee for Nobel Peace Prize, and now has been named Man of the Year by Who's Who in America. Len, we salute you again for all the work that you continue to do, finding the kindness campaign and everything. We're so proud of you, and we're excited because this is a great day. July 3rd, 2026, we are celebrating our 250th country anniversary, and we're so proud and we're so happy that we have people like a guy from Scranton, Pennsylvania, that became a world class fighter pilot, trainer, and leader. And thank you so much, Len, and welcome. Take it away.
Well, then happy to be here and honored to be here, ladies and gentlemen. But some of the finest people that you'll find anywhere, because I've got nothing but nice things to say about them and all the good things that together we're working. And I usually start off with the show with first off, welcome and God bless. And second, I want you to watch my lips when I say we're not selling anything. We have kindness galore and all the wonderful things that we can and are doing for all these many, many years that benefit you and yours now and always. And that it goes on with it. I've got stories to tell, and if you give you an opportunity to call your family or friends or anybody, if you want to get them on the show, so that they can hear things that are going to help make them part of a better world with their own family, friends, neighbors, churches, and charities, and what have you. And again, I'll stress we're not selling anything, but do yourself that favor because that's why we're here. And it was very nice of Ron to mention the awards. And by the way, Ron and Mary and all those listening, I just got the nicest thing in the mail yesterday. And there they said, Len, you are now again selected for all these years, number one in the country for being part of the organization that is helping to make it a better world. And that tugs at the heartstrings to know that that organization, the book that they sent me was this big and it's full of all kind of names and wonderful opportunities and comments about how we can do it and continue doing it. And if you're here, let me tell you, here's what I guarantee. When you finish this show and do what has been requested, you're going to be a better person. So is your family, your friends, your neighbors, your church, or your charity. Because there's a big thing we ought to do. And we know why we're doing it because there's so many bad people here, there, and everywhere. They're not being nice to everybody. punching each other, fighting wars, killing each other, and all that. That's madness. The metaphor is madness. Why not make it a nice world? The kindness campaign and some wonderful stories about Mary Stanley's children. And her daughter is something special. And the nice part about Mary Stanley, she came out one time to the state where Ron Clayton is a member, and the place near his home is a Navy, it's a station, a naval base, and it's the largest naval base in the United States. And I was honored to be this guest speaker. Why not? But what happened was Mary Stanley's little daughter and little son, well, they came along, and you don't believe this, I'll try to show it the best I can, ladies and gentlemen. But the kids brought little flags about the size of my fist, and in the flag had an American flag on and a little stick that the kids were walking around the, the burial site for all those who had served, fought, and even died for our freedoms. And they would put on each of where the people had died in their little grave, if you will. And it tugged at the heartstrings to see kids doing that. And Mary Stanley, let me tell you, she is something special. She served her time in the military, and after she finished her military program, she came and she get to California one time, and on the telephone she called and said, "Len, I've been following what you're doing with your Golden Rule Society charity." And she said, "I'd like very much to be a member." Well, we looked at her background and all the wonderful things that Mary Stanley has done and is still doing. Absolutely, dear, please come on board. And she has, and it is wonderful, marvelous. Matter of fact, let me just tell you about Mary Stanley. Just this past year, she was selected #1 female in the United States doing this sort of work. Top of the line. And there she is, tugging at the heartstrings. I keep using that word, but it touches you that way, knowing that she is doing that. She's here tonight, not today, I should say, with everybody that wants to listen. But it just keeps going on and on. And when you stay with us, be sure you have a paper and a pencil with you, and we're going to take notes. And again, not selling anything, but you take advantage of what is available to you. Primarily, it goes on. But for your background information, I was a coal miner's kid from Scranton, Pennsylvania, and finished high school. Wonderful mommy and daddy. And the next day after I finished high school, off I went to the Navy. And as I was ready to leave our home in my little bag, and my mother stopped and she said, "Len, I want you to remember this, that wherever you go, whatever you do, whoever you meet, be courteous and be kind." And those words are in my heart and my soul and my mind all of my life. Why not? There's no sense in arguing people and throwing rocks and all that sort of stuff. Because to better the lives of others is your life's greatest reward, which makes the rest of your life the best of your life. And that comes from the good Lord Himself, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And you got to keep going at it because that's why we're here. We're here to serve. And I'm just honored so much. And I want to tell you a little something about when I joined the Navy. right out of high school. I got there, and it was a Navy boot camp. And what they did was they give you tests for this and that and the other. And the guy came up there and he said, "Hey, Len, you did pretty good on the test. You have 2 years of college education." And I said, "Time out. I had never been to college." And they said, "Well, boy, you knocked the socks off the test." I said, "Okay, what does that mean?" They said, "Well, it means you're qualified to now take the test to go to Navy flight training school." I said, "I don't know anything about flying airplanes or anything like that." But they said, "Well, yeah, give it a shot. Take a shot." So I did. I took a shot and I passed the test. The next thing I knew, I'm down in Pensacola, Florida, going through Navy flight training. It was absolutely magnificent uh, for a coal miner's kid. And the next thing I knew, I'm off with a commission as a naval officer with Navy wings as a teenage ensign.
Hmm.
Golly, it was really something. And I'm talking too much about myself, but got to the first squadron, and there they said, "All right, take care or do this and that and the other." And next thing you know, they said, "Hey, kid, you did pretty good." So they said, "We're going to let you enter in this, what they call it, the Top Gun School for the Navy." So I entered the school. Next thing I knew, I was the East Coast Top Gun and the Old Navy Top Gun. And I said, "Hey, good for you. You're on. You're in. Ready to go." And there it was. And I've been doing that same sort of a chore every day, making nice, being courteous, kind to people. They made me an instructor in tactics, how to fly up and down. And they gave it the nickname CAT program, Kane Air Tactics. And the tactics that we put together ended up, that was most incredible program that worked so well that we went off for a 9-month tour over Vietnam in combat. And we were the first organization that did not lose a single airplane in combat. God bless. And the Air Force heard about this, and they sent this guy out to the USS Enterprise, the carrier that we were flying from. And we said, "Well, welcome aboard." The gentleman was an ace in the Air Force in World War II, where he shot down 7 Nazi airplanes back then. Now here he's in charge of the Air Force section in the Pacific. Well, so he came, spent most of the day. I gave him all the information that I had in our Kane Air Tactics program. And he said, "Well, thank you very much." And his assistant was there with him. And off they went. Less than a week afterwards, they sent me a message saying, "Hey, Len, keep up your good work because we have virtually cut our losses more than in half following the tactics program, up and down, here, there, and everywhere." So I don't want to just waste your time telling about that sort of stuff, but that really did happen, and it was just made a wonderful part of the program. And here I've been, fly guy for so many years, and after I finished the Navy, the Air Force, or I should say the organization, Air Traffic Organization in San Diego area, Pacific Southwest Airlines. They called me up and said, "Hey, Len, we need you. Come on out." So I went over to the airline. So I was an airline pilot and an instructor. Fun stuff. And we have 2 sons who are flying airline pilots now. Wonderful stuff. Following in the footsteps. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take a little break here and turn it back over to Mr. Ron Clayton. He is something special because he was working for a man by the name of Joel Gripping. Now, Joel Gripping, small world that it is, was also a Pennsylvania graduate of Penn State. Brilliant man. And I didn't meet him till later on. And what he did was incredible. He was a senior advisor to three of the top Navy men in charge of the Navy, the leadership, the wind, the guys fighting the war. And he was their ace, their supporter. And that's the brilliance that he had. Matter of fact, his Mr. Ron Clayton's boss, Joel Gripping, wanted me to be on the team. And what happened was, sadly, cancer got him and called him, he's in heaven. So there was Mr. Ron Clayton, who took over the job from Joel Gripping. And Wolfwood called me and said he wanted to be part of the team. And I said it took at least 2 seconds to say, welcome aboard. Well, again, the good Lord calls him home, so he's in heaven. But if you're Ron Clayton, he's still part of the team and he's with us today. And I'm going to turn it over to Ron for all the wonderful things that he's been doing to continue the program, helping to make it a better world. And I've got another story or two that's going to knock your socks off, ladies and gentlemen. So tell your friends because
Okay, Len, we'll take it away. We want to first of all thank you for coming on board and being available today. The fact that you are, from the generation coming through Vietnam and thereafter, of being a one of our guardians of our freedom, and of course today and this weekend we're celebrating the freedom, 250 years of freedom, living in America, being a citizen, being an active part of the military in the way that you did, and then joining and finding what you did when you got finished with the military, when you went into private air flight, being an instructor and a pilot for major airlines. You also led and found the Golden Rule Society. And that organization for over 53 years has done nothing but to support families and churches and schools to improve and make life better. And in doing so, you have made our lives and around the country. And I know you live in Coronado, right down there across from the naval base. When Linda and I were there, my wife and I were traveling to the West Coast a couple of years ago, and we stopped in and spent time with you and Ann, your bride. Of how many years have you guys been married, Len? A lot of
oh
years.
yeah, we've been married now. It was 66, but now it popped over 67 years.
Wow.
So
Well, I gotta tell you,
together,
we've been married 53. We're trying to catch up. Anyways, your work and the Golden Rule Society, and then helping us with the Hope Collection, we merged our organizations to be able to continue to fight forward, proving to the world and to the United States and individuals wherever we live to making this a better world. And you've been doing that. A few years ago, you brought an organization to the team that is now world renowned. It's called Intiva, Team Intiva, Intiva, Intiva Health. And what they are, they're a private company owned and operated out of Houston, Texas, that actually is a medical company. They have several divisions. One is that they have become known as the number one supplier and supporter to the certification of individuals who go into the medical field, get educated, and then when they get educated, they have to get certified to practice in whatever state they live in or whatever country. And the beauty is that Your Antiva Health can get somebody, whether a doctor, a nurse, specialist, somebody in research, can get them certified to be able to operate in whatever they live. And they do it at such a high level. They've been rated by the entire medical field, American Heart Association, American Cancer, AMA, everybody certified them to be number one in supplying support and getting certified. They're just greatest. There are other divisions. One has become so prominent, you can't turn the TV on anymore. You can't turn TV on without seeing a commercial for something called. You used to get buy a pill from a doctor, get a prescription, you get a pill. You want to get some vitamins, you want to get some food supplements, and you get a pill or a liquid or a powder. Well, now we have one of our famous gummy bears. And the gummy bear solution for the pharmaceutical and medical industry has to be organic and pharmaceutical grade product in order to use it. Well, you brought up and you found and helped found Into Health with your good friend, which you'll tell the story about in a few minutes. But what they've done is, if you go on and you go to what's the Good Health, Whole Foods, or you go to CVS Pharmacy, and there's many, many more, that if you buy their product, you are getting Intiva Health manufactured product. And they started with one plant, they built a second one, and now they bought and have added a third operating facility to manufacture the product for these gummy bear medicines. And the reason for that is, and it's incredible, they're number one. They're operating 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Very, very substantial. The founder of the company, he's a computer and mathematics genius, Angela, and Len will talk about him here in a second. But he actually developed a program that allows us to take tests that can indicate what you're genetically allergic to, so they don't doctors give you the wrong medicine. They also, of course, developed this company making the gummy bear products. So, Len, you want to tell us a little bit more about where Antiva came from?
I'd be happy to because it really tugs at the heartstrings. I love that term because it makes you really get involved and you really want to know what's going on. You want to do the same sort of a thing that people do. But I mentioned to you that uh, early in my career, I was an East Coast Top Gun, all Navy Top Gun, and they turned me into an instructor pilot for fighter pilots, and that went very well. But the nice part about it that we were going to get to that the combat that we were doing over there in Vietnam that set a world's record. We didn't lose a single airplane in the 9 months, but we implemented the Cane Air Tactics program, and it saves the lives of many. Well, when we were over there for all these many, many months, flying up at high altitudes against the bad guys, who's on the ground? The Marines. And you know that they're there, but you can't see them. You don't know you don't talk to them because it's like fighting two different wars and or combats. So after that was all over, and we finished with winning the war, so to speak. Well, back home here, where I am, which is near the San Diego area, right across the bridge, and this is where we're living now. And I got a call, and it says, "Hey, Len, you got to get down to the Texas." And the gentleman introduced himself to who he was and why he was calling me. And he was one of the Marines that was on the ground when I was up at altitude. I don't know how he got in touch with me, but he gave me a call. And it's Jim Kyle is his name. Wonderful guy. Again, small world. He was from Pennsylvania on the West Coast. I was East Coast, but we had something in common. And he said, Len, you got to get down here to Texas. Oh, what do you need me there in Texas? He says, I want you to meet this gentleman. He was also a Marine, and his name is Alexander Candelario. Okay, but I have to go down there. Oh, yeah, you got to get down here. So I did. Took an airplane down there and met him, Alexander Candelario. He had been injured in combat, and he was back there going through what all procedures they do to take care of them, make it back to 100%. Well, I was introduced to him, and we were in his in the together at the working near the anyway. Excuse me, I'm getting emotional. But he started telling me about what he is doing and why he was doing things. And I said, okay, well, nice to hear that. That sounds like interesting. And he kept going on, brilliant man, Alexander Candelario. And I said, wait a while, what you need to put this program that you've got going here in your mind, you got to put it in business. So I pick up the telephone in Texas, called my home people here in California, and we formed a corporation on the telephone. Okay, now, and I said, Alexander, you now have a corporation. You have a business rather than just doing this thing on your own. And that business expanded incredibly. Over the years, we had to get 3 manufacturing plants over in Arizona, and that means we get all the suppress the supplies and everything that people would use to take away sickness, and whatever it is, the doctors are, it goes on and on. And it was that big that pretty soon, because everybody started hearing about Intiva Health. And by the way, Ron, just to let you know this, that Intiva Health is now changed their name. It's called the Tiva Team. Well, so we're now all part of the Tiva Team. And this organization is now, you got to pay attention, because it's the Tiva Team is now the #1 organization in the world. I'll say it again, in the world, supporting the medical industry. People who have something that could give it to the doctors and hey, these are the pills, take away pain for people, or this one works into making people, and so it gets checks out. Everybody, this is really good, and that's the beauty of it. #1 in the world supporting the medical industry, and that's what the Diva Team is. Wow! Now, if that doesn't knock your socks off, I don't know what will. And remember, I'm a coal miner's kid, and we put it together for them. They are super duper. And I could go on, and I will be happy to do that. But you know now that the company is, you talk to your doctor, you talk to the nurse, you talk to the hospital that you're talking to, and you say, oh, I know, what's this Tiva Team? What are they offering? And the doctors said, it used to be they would say, well, we haven't heard about that. Nowadays, they're all up to speed. They know what is going on because they see it on a day-to-day basis, making sure that you get something that is going to save your life or take away all the pain and suffering. And it just, again, makes you feel no good that somebody has done something special in this world to keep it workable for you and yours, family, friends, and neighbors. So I'm going to take another little break here again. Ron, if you will jump in and give us the best that you got, which is really super, Mr. Ron Clayton. God bless you, Ron. Take it
Well,
forward.
thank you, Len. I noticed we have somebody else aboard with us today that I just not sure I recognize. It has a logo, a label on it. It says Air Force. I'm guessing, is that possibly Jim from down in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, that's joined us today?
It is.
Hi, Jim. So glad you were able to make the show. Really
Yeah, I
glad.
can't get my camera to work though.
Oh well, you'll have to check in with our controller. You know her as Mary Stanley. She is
Yeah.
the Miss Fix-It of everything, and she's doing. You know, I found out something interesting the other day about her. I've known a lot of things. I've come to know a lot about her and her husband Andy, and of course the two angels. I call them that. She calls them other things. I call them angels. Princess and Luke Skywalker, and they're on the show a lot of times. But she doesn't her. She does not have her camera on either. But if you check with Mary, she maybe can help you diagnose how to fix that, Jim. Um, I did want to mention to you that what I was trying to say about Mary. Mary is she's a veteran also. She was stationed at Fort Drum in 9/11, and she holds different people that do different services while their time while they serve. um, she was very special in what she did, and she has got an award that very very few people have, and that was she was on the cutting edge um, search and rescue team that went on the day after 9/11 happened. The United States Army from Fort Drum moved their people down from up north by Watertown all the way down to New York City, down to 9/11. And there Mary worked to help rescue and help serve and uncover and find the people that were so really seriously injured or died. She was there recovering and working with them. And we give a special reach out to her and recognize her for her energies in that way. She is a real special hero. It takes someone really, really, really neat to be able to do what she did there. And we thank you, Mary.
We're
But you're
going
forgetting that I'm following orders. It isn't like I had an option.
to.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't the first responder that, could say no and run out.
But that's not the kind of person you are.
Well, that's true, but
No buts.
I'm sitting on my.
That you could do, but
We're going to be up in your neck of the woods. We're going to pass your former base in next week, when we're up in the Thousand Islands of New York State on the New York State and Canadian border, um, vacationing next week. So we're going to pass right where you were. So, um, but Captain Kane, it's just such a pleasure to take the time to just listen to some of your stories about flying a jet right off of a aircraft carrier. Just that just amazes me how you can take off, but then and also land on a moving ship with a fighter. And so, I'm sure once you became a airline pilot, it probably was a piece of cake landing in an airport as compared to landing on a battleship.
Well, that's true. It wasn't a battleship. It was an airline pilot. Anyways, now you're just kidding around with each other. But it's really flying airplanes is really challenging. But it's a lot easier to fly an airline than it is to fly aboard aircraft carriers.
Sure.
Because the aircraft carrier could be bouncing up and down. It depends on what the status of the ocean or wherever you are, if it's smooth, that's really great. If it's
Yeah.
bouncing around or heavy air, the speed
Oh,
of and the airplanes and oh gosh, oh dear, the wind's blowing to you. It's challenging,
yeah.
and it really is. And it's. So I'm glad I made it. Is what I tell
Yes.
everybody. And I mean,
Well,
and by the
Len,
way,
whenever Linda and I fly today, and wherever we go, when we land, I always tell Linda when we land what kind of pilot, who we had for a pilot. If it came in and we landed on a hard slam to the ground, I said we got a Navy pilot here. If we come in nice and smooth and easy, we got probably a lady flying the plane. So it's know what kind of pilot you had by the way you land.
Well, you're funny.
I know you, Len. I also know you hold a world record for flying more different kinds of jet fighters than anybody in the world. And I believe the count was 6 or more different planes in less than 2 days. You flew them combat duty, and you've been recognized that, and you were awarded an award for recognition for doing that in the service. Boy, that just tells more about your skills. Incredible.
oh well, I love to tell the story because people ask for it all the time. After I finished my Navy career, uh, retired, of course, and I went to this airline that was based here in the San Diego area. Matter of fact, one of it, they said, Len, we'd love for you to come aboard. I said, well, I'll give it a try. And it was Pacific Southwest Airlines, PSA, flew up and down the west coast of the United States. And I said, well, do you want me to come aboard? I'll be happy to do it. And they said, you come on board. Well, that worked out very well. And first things they asked me to do said, we've got this organization. We've got 12 airline pilots that we need to get qualified as airline pilots.
Ah,
12 of them. And I said, Len, you've done a lot of instructing and all that sort of stuff. You're their instructor. So it was fun and enjoyable talking to these guys, how to do takeoffs, how to do landings, this and that and the other, how to make sure that it's just working safely, smoothly as you can. And that was wonderful. And what happened was they finished the training and everybody was happy. There's everybody to go. And then they went down to Texas and became part of the Southwest Airlines.
ah,
And Southwest Airlines is still in business.
yeah.
Our old PSA, Pacific Southwest, got bought out by the U.S. Air. So the things come and go. So that was just fun to do that some of the thing. And I was friends with the guys that were the founders of the organization and Southwest Airlines. Anyway, they don't know who I am anymore because many, many years has shipped up
Yeah, yeah.
on. So anyway, that's that little thing with them. And another story that people say that's really something. So I'm with the Pacific Southwest Airlines, flying up and down the coast. Very nice. Everything was smooth and cool and safe. And one Christmas, I got two Christmas presents, one from my wife Ann and one from her mother back in Pennsylvania. And there was this nice little silver, good-looking, but for a man to have on his shirt or his jacket or wherever. And I had two of them. And I said, what am I going to do with two of these? And of course, everybody joked around and said, well, you sell one and then you wear the other one with the other of the girls. It's a similar kind of a, all in good fun. So I started and I told people who would get on the airplane, I said, I've got a deal. It's just a swap. I've got this beautiful, beautiful store for you that wear on your shirt or your jacket. Very attractive. But I got two, so I only need one. And what I'll do is I'll swap with anybody on board for something of greater value. And we're going to do this all on paper. You don't have to have whatever you want. So we did that. And then the chief pilot heard about it. He said, "What are you doing?" And I told him, I said, "I'm not selling anything. I'm just swapping." And he called the boss, the owner, who called me and said, "Len, I heard what you're doing." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Keep it going. That's all like fun." Long story short, we kept swapping. It was all on paper. And people would swap this for that. Long story short, when we finished, we had gifts all on paper that people said, "Well, I've got two of this," or "I've got said that." That was part of the program. And then when they said, "Okay, time's up," I had all these gifts. And what I did was I called and contacted every charity, church, nonprofit organization in the San Diego area. I said, "I have all these gifts, and they're yours to contact anybody and anybody that you want. And if they want to buy a ticket to see if they're going to could win one of these prizes, that's up to you. We don't get anything. I don't get anything." So we tried it. And one of my buddies, he happened to be an attorney, but we were golfing buddies. And he heard about what was going on. And by the way, when I approached all the charities in San Diego, what they did, they started selling tickets for people to run. Long story short, they raised over $1 million that went to the charities. And my boss, who was the attorney, and so he said, "Len, you form a charitable organization," which I did, had to, just for own protection, and it's called the Golden Rule Society. Simple as that. Golden Rule. Treat others the way you want to be treated. So anyway, there they were. Everybody was happy. All the charities were happy. We ended up with the Golden Rule Society charity. We have continued with the Golden Rule Society, and we got to have it. We don't call it a charity anymore, but it's the Golden Rule Society, and we're still doing the same thing. We just don't have to make any payments, and we don't get paid, so it makes it easy, and it helps to make it a better world on a day-to-day basis. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to bore myself out here, but I want you to know that the good work that Mr. Ron Clayton is doing to keep it going, and his lovely, lovely wife, plus Mary Stanley with her daughters and her husband. And she was selected, and I think I told you, number one female in the country doing to help make it a better world. And Mary Stanley, God bless you now and always. Keep up your great work, everybody. Ron Clayton's and your bride and everybody. I could go on, but I'm going to take the rest of the day off, if you will. And anyway, Ron or Mary, soccer to us because
Len, I'd
yours.
just like to, Len, again, I want to say thank you. And I'd like to ask anybody that's on the call today that's listening in or called in, next Friday, my wife and I are going to be on the road traveling, so the show will be on, but we just might not be here. But if you could come on Friday, get back on the show, come back and share what you did for the Independence Day celebrations, both with your family or what you did in your community. Just like to hear stories of how you helped celebrate our 250th anniversary. And in the
Yes.
meantime, we want to thank everyone for being a part of what we're doing to make this a better world. Len, my salute to you again. We're so proud.
God bless everybody. Kindness, kindness, kindness. Keep it going, gang. Loads of love. Happy days. Happy 4th of July.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye bye for now.